What's going on, guys? I didn't I didn't even realize my title actually took out a word, but it's fine. It's all good. Let me edit it actually. Let me edit something right quick. I'll get started here in just a second, guys. As everyone joins in, let me just edit something real quick. Let's see. Just change this. There we go. Perfect. That works. And should have changed it? I think it should. All right, there we go. Let's see if I drop this real quick. All right, I'll get started here, guys. Probably gonna be a short session today. I know that Sig and Dapper are probably just a few minutes shy of starting their class, so I did create a little bit of a short little watch list here. Typically I do the ticker request, but today I figured start off the week. I know the holidays weekend's coming up. We finally see some kind of life and green in this market after what was just I want to say pretty much looked like torture last week to pretty much end the week. Last week was just a bloody week. So thought I'd pretty much find a nice little watch list here. Things to keep on watch, levels to keep in mind going into the rest of the week before we get into a holiday weekend. So what did we basically see today, right? After all the blood that we had pretty much ending last week, we had that beautiful little double bottom action that ended up happening to close out last week. And we ended up having a nice rebound since then. So we saw what basically ended up happening here today. We had the nice little gap up, and then we saw the slow grind today, which you pretty much heard me and Avery saying for most of the morning. Like today's price action literally just felt like it was moving in slow motion, pretty much. So that's really what it felt like to me. It felt like slow motion. But pretty much what we're getting is that a lot of tickers that actually moved today were pretty much in very deep oversold territory. And what do I mean by that is that if you look across the board in certain sectors, especially the financial sector, you see the amount of names that pretty much ended up getting a beautiful rebound. JPM up $7 today. I'm sure if I pretty much go across the board, names like maybe like Goldman Sachs up $9 today. BAC was up, I think about $2 exactly on the dot almost. So the banks were deeply oversold. The banks have been dying. We haven't heard anything about the banks, pretty much for maybe weeks on months for that matter. They just were dying endlessly. We would have thought with all the rate hike news that the banks would have saw life maybe a long time ago for that matter, right? Once we started to hear the rate hikes coming in, that wasn't the case. So good sign that we saw life out of the financial sector. I know that MasterCard, Visa, those other names were also up. Phenomenal move off of Dare. So that's one I'm actually going to touch bases on. Caught my attention here today. But where do we basically go with SPY? And that's pretty much what everyone wants to know here right now, right? Uh, I look at it pretty simple. Either we end up breaking down below 394 here tomorrow, or we're able to hold this 396 level and we go to test the gap fill here that's sitting at 403. You want to say 404 pretty much because it's about sitting 403.80 is that exact spot. But if we end up testing that gap fill, I'm pretty much just looking to basically touch 407 here, which basically fills that entire gap that we have dates back towards May 17th. And that's what I will be looking at. So we hold 396, we test the gap fill at 404, and then we complete it at 407. Otherwise, if we break down below 393, then that's pretty much when we're going to end up coming right back down. A little bit of support here that you'll be sitting around this 390-ish level that you have a very tiny gap from today's price action. Otherwise, then we're flirting. We're going right back down to the lows here. Pretty much, which I expect by the end of the week. Whether we get that move to the upside and fill the gap here tomorrow, be Wednesday, I do expect to end up going lower when it's all said and done here by the end of the week. Is what I would basically emphasize. All right, but those are just pretty much just to keep it simple. Those are the levels that I'm basically watching. Hold 396, I'm watching 403, 407. We break 393, then I'm watching 390 low, and then we end up breaking back down, and we'll likely hit this 384 and send us back into a fresh new low here. All right, off of last week's debacle. All right. Getting into some of the tickers that I was watching here. Some names that I haven't looked at recently, but now they're kind of getting into my attention here. Boeing happened to be one of those names that actually stood out to me today. Beautiful little falling wedge setup here. I couldn't ignore it just because of the fact that we're starting to see a little bit of life outside of the tech sector more so. I know today was more so Microsoft and Apple's kind of day, but this is one. I mean, it looks like if we get further upside, we're seeing SPY potentially at 403, 407. This may be a beautiful breakout candidate that has been another name like the financials that have been dying. We may end up seeing some kind of life here on Boeing for no apparent reason. Not that it's going to be news based or anything, primarily because of the fact that it's just been beaten up so much. So, beautiful falling wedge action. Let's see if we can end up testing the downtrend resistance at 126 half. We break 126 half, then I'm looking at our short term supply that's sitting between this 131 to 132 mark. And that'll be where I would expect the reversal to go right back down. So 126 half, you could pretty much just book it right up towards 131 is what I'm potentially looking at for upside. Otherwise, if you end up rejecting 126 half, then that's going to be where your potential short comes into play. And more so than not, I think for the past few months that I can recall, Boeing has been more so a short opportunity than it has been for call buying. So 126 half, that's the line in the sand. That's how you look to play it on the rejection or the breakout above. All right, pretty much keep it simple there. The other one was there. This one caught my attention just because of the larger degree formation that's in play here. And if I pull it out to the weekly here, you basically see a beautiful little ascending broadening wedge action. Obviously, you can see the massive breakdown that you had on this massive candle from last week's price action. Broke down, and what did we get? We got a beautiful bounce here. So where do I see it going? I expect to basically retest that support level that you broke down off of the wedge. We're going to end up retesting that at 349. We retest that at 349, and that's when it potentially comes back into play as a short. And we take it right back down. I do have a zone sitting pretty much just entering 297 to 298. That's what we're going to be looking at for my next zone that's sitting down below, in which my target is. And so again, pretty much just setting this up. Let's see how she reacts at 349. She rejects that prior support as resistance now, and then she makes her next leg down for a fresh new low off of last week's price action. All right. So 349 is your level in the sand here. Either you play the opportunity up tomorrow, if we maybe open flat to red. But 349 is how you would play it up towards, and then watch that for your level of resistance. Otherwise, then you're going to see this break right back into the wedge if she trades over 349. All right. The other one was Facebook. Facebook was one I gave out that fresh idea this morning on an ideas channel. If anyone caught that one, I pretty much sniped that one from 191 low. I was mentioning to watch that. There was a point where she was at 195 earlier in the morning. You could have took your profits. Then, but I mean, it was a slow grinder. So you had a potentially about a $5, roughly a $5 move off of Facebook. That was a beautiful one. But giving you the projection here off of Facebook, what am I looking for? Kind of a little bit of a similar formation as the Dare, but this one's a lot more of a larger degree, ascending, broadening wedge action. And so if we're looking for the bounce, then I'm potentially looking for this one up towards 205. Otherwise, if we can't even get up to 205, then I'm potentially watching for the breakdown, which is more my interest, under this 185 mark. We get this breakdown under 185. I'm watching to basically retest this low from April 25th. That's basically sitting down towards 173 here very soon. Do I expect that level to hit this week particularly? No. I could see us trading down towards the mid 180s by the end of the week, and that's what I'll potentially be looking at is for the short opportunity. All right, so that's what I would say. 205 was my upside target. Otherwise, look to see if you take out today's low, that 191.62, and you could potentially look to see if this trades down towards 183 high, is what I would say. All right. The other one was Apple. Apple was one that had amazing strength out of today. I didn't even realize she closed up the day $5.50, but insanely kind of crazy day for Apple. This is another one. She broke down off of this. I want to say it's an ascending channel more so than a wedge. If we're gonna end up retesting for the upside here, I'm watching this basically 150 low. We'll be retesting the resistance that was prior support for this ascending channel. Will pretty much make a move up towards 150 if that be the case, if she gets up that high. I think she's gonna fall a little bit short. I do have a little bit of a hard resistance at this 148 half, which is still potentially about another $5 move to the upside here, if that be the case. But that's what you're gonna watch: 148 half, then 150 low, spot on basically, and then that's where you're gonna end up looking to get into your short opportunity potentially towards the end of the for the end of the week basically. All right. So that's the other one. A name that's everyone's always watching, Tesla. I kind of mentioned earlier on, try not to pay attention to Tesla today. It was definitely one that just ate a premium for you most of the day. Unless you were in the money and you got calls, it was pretty much very painful. But nonetheless, watching upside here, the upside target I'm watching is 696, which is roughly about a 20-ish dollar move that you're looking at to the upside. That'll be the spot where I'm going to be looking to go short on Tesla at 696. And then we take it back down and we potentially look for a new low from last week's price action down towards 621, 622. And below that, I ultimately have her coming down below that 600 mark. I have a nice little zone, and she could end up potentially coming down towards 585 is where my last potential target's going to be looking at. All right. Speaking in NVIDIA, I don't know what did NVIDIA actually report. All right, so there's nothing just yet on her, but she's flat. I was actually watching AMD in sympathy to that one a little bit. AMD was actually the one I wanted to play in sympathy to NVIDIA. I was watching downside here. I do have quite a bit of downside, but I do want to see how it's going to play on the back end of NVIDIA's earnings. So I think it's a little bit early to say which direction potentially, which way the semis are going to go just yet. Obviously, I want to see what their earnings are for NVIDIA, and you're likely going to see AMD move in sympathy to it. But if I'm saying the upside potential, I'm watching the resistance here at 98. That's my upside target. Otherwise, I'm looking to potentially get a short here. And I'm looking for that short opportunity under 89 half is what I'm looking at for AMD. All right. So this breaks down under 89 half is when I'm particularly looking at to basically retest the lows that you have from May 9th. And that'll be at that 83 half mark. But overall PT to the downside here, I'm watching this down towards 74 to 75 is what I'm looking at for my overall downside on AMD. All right. And then just the last one I wanted to mention was on the back end of the notes for banks. Keep an eye on the continuation for JPM. I do think this one's highly favorable for upside potential tomorrow, in which I do have a supply sitting at this 128 half up towards 129 is what I'm looking at for supply. That basically dates back towards your reversal that you had from your March 11th low, and then that's also a little bit of a resistance on support level that you had before you ultimately broke down from on this April 22nd. All right. So that's a beautiful one. 128, 129 is what you're looking at in terms of continuation on JPM tomorrow, as the banks did pretty beautifully. All right. A little bit actually reading, pretty much rethinking about the fact that you said thoughts. I do expect Nvidia to basically break down off of their earnings. Not that their earnings are going to be bad. I just expect that the fact that uh, their earnings are basically going to be bad in the sense that you may end up having the sense. How can I put this? The demand is not basically going to be, their demand is going to basically not equate to the supply that they have, and that's really going to be the issue. There's going to be a slower demand that's going to be pretty much perceived to us as a consumer basically, in which it's not going to be good for their outlook of their guidance basically. All right. The snow earnings, snow has been beaten up just drastically. That one's been demolished right now. I know that snow has just been looking horrible. I haven't even looked at their chart, and they're also flat in the after hours. But I do have a nice little downtrend support level that's pretty much sitting. So when I actually look at this one, I had it coming down to about 113-ish. So I would not mind if this one actually continues to pretty much keep dropping here. And I think that probably looked better. Yeah, it looked better off of the daily. So if you actually look at it, it's basically a massive little megaphone action I have sitting on snow right now. The top line resistance, bottom line support. So this should come down towards about 113, 112, and that would ideally be the spot that I would tell you to particularly go long on snow. Is that 113 mark? All right. ZM is up. Why is Zoom up? Damn, that thing is up $14. Is there? That is nuts. I mean, I gotta say though, Zoom's actually been revived more than likely because of the fact that COVID is actually starting to resurface. I know that I saw, first thing I pretty much saw when I woke up this morning on Twitter was Shanghai was basically, Beijing was basically reporting that the outbreak on COVID was actually pretty much just making new highs for them. So I can understand if Zoom's actually pretty much coming into value here now, and they're making reasonable value and guidance also on the back end of, um, I want to say world crisis still in effect with on the back end of COVID. All right, so it doesn't surprise me too much. If I were to say where this next level of resistance is, you're basically looking to see if you can retest the highs from March 31st, in which this could take this up to a one as high as 126, but you still have a little bit of a resistance to get through at this 107 mark. So if you break this 107, then I can see you potentially making a move towards 126 off the back end of some upgrades maybe tomorrow morning. But 107 is going to be a pretty tough level for it to get over, and that's where I think you're going to have the biggest trouble is at 107 high. All right. But other than that, I'll pretty much. And you said Square, Cody. I know that Square's pretty much looking like a short right now. That was a newsletter play. I would pretty much refer you back to the newsletter play. But I do have this coming down towards 58, low 58, when it's all said and done. But you do have a little bit to get through. You ultimately you need to break below 79 half. In my opinion, it needs to break below 79 half. I know that crypto was up today. We're gonna need to see how crypto ends up closing out the week. I just think that the short, trying to be short right now, you're, I don't want to say you're early. It just depends how soon you bought in today. But to me, ideally, tomorrow would be more so the better day to pretty much look to short for your short opportunities. All right. Obviously, you see today was pretty much a nice day. I usually typically say look to short the bounces, look to short the rips. It's just that this may end up being one of those times where you may have shorted a little bit early. Is all I would say about that. All right. But I do love the short play. I think by the end of the week, Square will end up ultimately making a new low potentially. And I think you stick with that play. All right. Other than that, though, I'll cut it short and sweet right there. I know class is about to start. So head over to the Sig and Dapper class, and I will pretty much make conclusion right there. But right before I let you guys go, since you guys are not paying attention to probably Discord right now, there is an alert right now. I pretty much I'm actually really happy about this one. I We did release new cloud alerts, so there was two new cloud alerts that was released. One by myself and pretty much one that Tom worked on. Tom was actually working on CVS as a new cloud alert for you guys this past week. That's actually going into launch here. I believe he just mentioned it's going to be launching live as of tomorrow. And then the other one that I was working on was Chevron. So it kind of gives us a little bit outside of so much tech that we have in the cloud alerts right now. You look at having NVIDIA, Tesla, Shop, Facebook. So this is actually very good for you guys now actually having one in the healthcare sector and now having one in the oil sector. So that's something I'm actually really excited about because it does give us a better gauge in terms of sector rotation, maybe in terms of which names are really hot and which sectors are pretty much really flowing or looking for breakouts. So that's something I'm really happy about that's going to be rolling out starting tomorrow. So pay attention to that. The other thing that actually helps is that those of you with smaller account sizes, that's going to be helping you guys a lot because the cheaper premiums in order to play the CBS and the Chevron tickers. All right. So hopefully that ends up playing out for you guys. But I just wanted to pretty much announce that. I know that Tom just dropped that news in the cloud alerts right now. So look forward to that starting tomorrow. But again, I'll leave it at a wrap right there. We'll call it short and sweet. Again, next this is gonna be a holiday weekend. That's actually where I titled that, so you guys get that mindset. It's like you're gonna end up being lower volume as we pretty much progress through the end of the week here. And I will likely remind you guys again towards the end of the week. Be careful with your swings over the weekend. All right. So, but other than that, I'll see you guys in the morning on live. Appreciate you guys joining in. But other than that, see you guys later.